Stockbridge Munsee. Hello, my name is Andi Weber, and I am honored to have this opportunity to be a part of something much, much larger than myself. That something is a political revolution being led by Bernie Sanders. He says what he means, and he means what he says. And because of that, I support Bernie Sanders. I am an enrolled member of the Mohican Nation in Wisconsin. As a Native American, I have only been afforded the right to vote since 1924. I was raised to know the importance of showing up to all elections, especially the primaries, to cast my vote. As a sophomore here at Haskell Indian Nations University, with ambition to continue my education beyond my undergraduate studies, Bernie Sanders understands the educational challenges facing many Americans, including Native Americans. And because of that, I support Bernie Sanders. I've seen firsthand the healthcare challenges, including access to proper healthcare facing many Americans, including Native Americans. Bernie Sanders understands those challenges and is committed to addressing them. Because of that, I support Bernie Sanders. We all know, unfortunately, the deck is stacked against average Americans through the broken political and economic systems in this country. Bernie Sanders has and continues to lead those fights when others lack the courage to even address them. And because of that, I support Bernie Sanders. Climate change knows no race, no color, or social class. It is an imminent threat that must be acted on. Access to clean water, healthy food, and a healthy environment are inherent human rights. They should be afforded to all Americans without regard to their race or social class. As the next President of the United States of America, I'm confident that Bernie Sanders will act on these pressing issues. As a parent, a student, a steward to Mother Earth, and as an Indigenous woman, I support Bernie Sanders. Ladies and gentlemen, I feel the Bern, and it is my honor to introduce the next President of the United States of America, Bernie Sanders.
Thank you, Lauren. I apologize for beginning late, but we got a couple of thousand people outside who are still trying to get in. So, but let me pick up and thank Jonathan and Andy for their wonderful, wonderful introduction. So let me just pick up on the point that Jonathan made. Here's the truth. 2002, the most important foreign policy decision of modern American history was made. President Bush, Vice President Cheney, and the entire administration, they said that we should go to war in Iraq. I listened very carefully to what they had to say, and I ended up believing that they were not telling the truth. I voted against the war. My opponent, Secretary Clinton, then in the Senate, heard the same evidence. She voted for the war. That's an important difference between the two of us. Now, as Jonathan mentioned, the cost of war is far, far greater than most people recognize. The cost of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars are not just 6,700 brave men and women who went off to war and never came home. But as Jonathan also said, it is 500,000 men and women who came home wounded in body or wounded in spirit. Hundreds of thousands of men and women who served in Iraq and Afghanistan are today dealing with post-traumatic disorder, or they're dealing with traumatic brain injury, very nasty illnesses. And not only are they dealing with these issues, so are their wives and their husbands and their children. And the lesson of Iraq is that we should understand that war is a last resort, not a first resort. Because we understand that the men and women who are going to fight those wars are not the sons and daughters of the billionaire class or the politicians. They are working class kids from all over this country. And the second lesson of the war is that we must never, and I speak as the former chairman of the Senate Veterans Committee, we must never, ever turn our backs on the men and women who put their lives on the line to protect us. You know, sometimes I hear my colleagues talking about how we go to war and how we should go to war and how we should do this and how we should do that. But when it comes to voting for adequate funding for the VA and the needs of our veterans, somehow these same brave, courageous people who talk about war all the time, they're not there when we need them to vote for our veterans. Now, this campaign is a different type of campaign because we're doing something very radical. We're telling the truth. Telling the truth in American politics is sometimes pretty unusual. So let me tell you some truth. And when you talk about truth, the truth is not only pleasant, it's not always pleasant. I mean, I wish I could tell you that everything was going great, no problems, but I would be lying to you if I told you that. On the other hand, if we are to go forward as a nation, we need to deal with reality, no matter how unpleasant that reality may be. And here is some truths, though they be unpleasant. Truth number one, you are living in a country today that has a corrupt campaign finance system that a corrupt campaign finance system that is undermining American democracy. Now, I wish I could tell you that in a way that does not sound so harsh or ugly, but then I would not be telling you the truth. Here is the truth again. A handful of billionaires, Koch brothers and a few others, you have heard of the Koch brothers. Koch brothers, second wealthiest family in America, and a few of their billionaire friends will spend an estimated $900 million in this campaign trying to elect candidates who represent the wealthy and the powerful. Now, I want you just to think about this. And one of the things about this campaign is to ask people to think outside of the box, to think outside of the status quo and conventional wisdom. When you have one family and a few of their billionaire friends spending more money than either the Democratic Party or the Republican Party nationally, that is not democracy. That is called oligarchy. People fought and died throughout our history to protect our way of life. Our way of life is democracy, not oligarchy. Together, we are going to stop this oligarchic trend. Right now, one of the differences between Secretary Clinton and myself is how we raise money for our campaigns. Secretary Clinton has several super PACs. She has raised, just in the last reporting period alone, $15 million from Wall Street. Not to mention giving speeches behind closed doors to Wall Street firms for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, what I kind of think is, if somebody is going to be paid $225,000 a speech, it's probably a great, wonderful speech that she would want to share with the American people. I am very proud to tell you, we do not have a super PAC. We don't want the money from Wall Street or corporate America. What we have done in this campaign in terms of fundraising is literally revolutionary. We have received, this is really unbelievable, something I never in a million years would have thought could have happened. We have received, up to this point in the campaign, 4 million individual contributions. That is more contributions than any candidate in the history of this country at this point in a campaign. So to paraphrase Abraham Lincoln at Gettysburg, this campaign, which, by the way, do you know what the average campaign contribution is? $27. So I am not indebted to Wall Street, the drug companies, the fossil fuel industry. I'm indebted to millions of people for that 27 bucks. So to paraphrase Abraham Lincoln at Gettysburg, this campaign truly is a campaign of the people, by the people, and for the people. Now, when you have a corrupt campaign finance system, when you have billionaires electing candidates to the Congress or to statewide offices around this country, what you end up with, obviously, is a Congress that is more interested in the needs of the billionaires than they are of the middle class and working families of this country. And the result of that is that we end up with a rigged economy. What does that mean? What a rigged economy means is that ordinary Americans, people in the middle class, working class, lower income people, in many cases are working longer hours for lower wages. It means that in America today, a lot of people don't know this, our people work the longest hours a year of any people in the industrialized world. Do you all know that? The Japanese are very hard-working people. We work longer hours than do the Japanese. So what you got in America today is mom is working, dad is working, kids are working, marriages are stressed because mom and dad don't have the quality time to spend together. Kids are not getting the attention that they need. And after all of that, 58% of all new income generated in America today is going to the top 1%. You guys ready for a radical idea? Together, we are going to create an economy that works for all of us, not just the 1%. So you've got a corrupt campaign finance system, billionaires buy elections. You got a rigged economy, the rich get richer, almost everybody else gets poorer. And then you got something else. You got a broken criminal justice system. Now again, I want you to think outside of the box. Go beyond establishment thinking. Go beyond the status quo. Ask yourselves this very simple question. In the richest country in the history of the world, which is what we are today, how does it happen that we have more people in jail than any other country on earth? How does it happen? How does it happen? So the question is, and most of the people in jail people in jail are disproportionately African American, Latino, and Native Americans. Now let me throw out another radical idea. I know this is a conservative state. You ready for two radical ideas? Although I have the feeling that Lawrence may not be that conservative a community. So here is radical idea number 2. Right now in America, youth unemployment is off the charts. For white kids who graduated high school, 33% are unemployed or underemployed. Latino kids, 36%. African American kids, 51%. So you got millions of young people who graduated high school, didn't drop out, stand out on street corners. Some of them are going to get into trouble. So here's radical idea number 2. We're going to invest for our young people in education and jobs, not jails and incarceration. Now, when we talk about a corrupt campaign finance system, and when we talk about a rigged economy, and when we talk about a broken criminal justice system, all of that comes together in a story that kind of took place about a month ago. Here's the story. Goldman Sachs, as many of you know, is one of the major financial institutions on Wall Street. And Goldman Sachs, along with the other major Wall Street firms, is largely responsible, of course, for the financial collapse in 2007, which resulted in millions of Americans losing their homes, their jobs, and their life savings. About a month ago, Goldman Sachs reached an agreement with the federal government, and they reached a settlement to pay $5 billion. $5 billion. Other banks even paid larger settlement agreements. Why did they reach this agreement? Because, as everybody knows, they were selling worthless packages of subprime mortgage loans to investors and the general public. So well, that's right, they are crooks, as a matter of fact. You know, I think it is fair to say, I mean, that's one way of expressing it, but I think it is fair to say that if you pay $5 billion fine for breaking the law, what are you? You're a crook. All right, so that's that. And again, you know, when I talk about unpleasant truths, this is what I am talking about. I'm not happy to tell you this, but in fact, many of these major Wall Street firms, their whole business model is based on fraud. That's just the way it is. And we got to recognize that, which, by the way, should tell us that when you have a handful of huge financial institutions today that are bigger than they were when we bailed them out because they were too big to fail, then maybe what we should be doing today is bringing back Glass-Steagall and breaking them up. But let me get back to my story, which appears to be getting longer and longer. It started off as a short story, getting longer. Here's the second. So the first part is you got major Wall Street institutions, some of the most powerful institutions in America that are based on fraud, basic dishonesty, cheating people. Not a good thing. All right? Learn that in Sunday school. Ain't a good thing to be cheating people. Okay, point number 2. All right, so you got a bunch of fraudulent operators. Point number 2, what about political power in America? Well, turns out that Wall Street, not just Goldman Sachs, but all of these companies, make very large, or shall I say, huge. I get very nervous about ever using that word again. So let's call it very large campaign contributions to candidates. Now that's political power. All of you, I hope, vote. But these guys, and I sure hope you're going to be voting on Saturday at the caucus. But these guys, they have the right to vote, but they also are pouring huge amounts of money into the candidates that they like. That's political power. Third point is called the revolving door. You know what the revolving door is? This is what the revolving door of politics is. You work on Wall Street, you're head of a major financial institution like Goldman Sachs.